Hello and welcome back to the Complete Web Dev series. We are taking you from a complete beginner to a job-ready entry-level developer where you have experience in a lot of different languages and technologies. Now we are getting close to the end of this, and I hope you guys can feel the excitement of starting that new job or starting that freelance career. In this chapter, we are building an API using Node.js and a library called Express.js. Okay, so what we're going to do now is hopefully this will be the last video in this chapter, and we will finish up the rest of our routes for our contacts. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my screen here. If you enjoyed this series, if you enjoyed this chapter, please give me a comment below, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and if you can support me financially, then please do so at patreon.com/freeskills. And if you want some merch, you can look below the video on YouTube, or you can, if you're on another alternative platform, which I suggest, then you can visit me at freeskills.life. With that, let's go ahead and see what branch this is going to be, which will be 11. So we're going to do a get checkout -b v11. And then we're going to set this origin on the remote. So we'll say get push -- set upstream origin v11. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and get started. So let's switch over here. We can close all of our routes here with the exception of, well, let me just close them all and then I'll show you how to open them. We are going to need the controller, the contacts controller. Let's go to API controllers. And then we're also going to need our, go to routes and open up our contacts routes. The next thing we're going to do is add our middleware into all of these routes. So we can do that by going here and doing, we'll say user auth, and we'll say is equal to require. And we'll go back a folder and go into our middleware folder and bring this user auth in from our check auth module there. All right. Let me spell const correctly, and then all we have to do is we are going to say user auth, and we could just put it in as another parameter right here in between the route here and the first parameter and then the controller action. We're going to send it through this middleware. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to copy this, and we'll actually use this on all of our contact routes just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and save that now. And what we could have done, I believe, is if we go to app.js, we could, in fact, do it here, or right here rather, since it's going to be all the routes. But I thought there may be a reason to have a single endpoint in here that doesn't need the user auth, and in that case we couldn't do it here. We'd have to do it individually here. So it could have just been one middleware that we add in the main app.js, but for now I think it works out nice to put it here and just for future expandability. But if at any point you decide, hey, all of my routes forever and always will be in the contacts, you should be able to add the middleware in the app.js. And you know what? Let's just try it. Okay, just see if it works, because I'm curious now that I said that. I've never actually tried it, but it only makes sense that it would work. So let me go ahead and remove all these. And then what we're going to do is save that and open up app.js here. And for our contacts, well, let's see. Let's add this in up here. We'll say const. Why can't I type const? All right, so then here we're going to say user auth require, and in this case we're going to require in our API /middleware /check authentication file, and then right here we're going to say user auth, and we'll need another like that. So let's save that now, and let's just try to go to contacts, and we'll do a GET request there. And now it says connection refused. So let's see what that is. I am sending this token. Let me go to my contact routes here. contacts. Okay, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm wrong here. So let me put this back here and save that. And then we'll get rid of this. And let's just try that out. See if that works. No, we still have a problem. What is the problem here? You know what? The problem is I didn't start my freaking server. So npm start. Sorry about that. Make sure you guys start your server and make sure examp's up and running. And now let's go back and just put this back here because I have a feeling that's what our problem was. And I'm going to remove it here. Save that. And then let's try a GET request. Alrighty then. So our GET request does seem to work here like that. And so now instead of adding it on each one of these routes, I think I will just to kind of show you the difference, we will leave it in the app.js to show you that we can run the middleware here and then into our routes, or we could do it the other way around like we did in our to-do routes where we added the middleware in on each one of our routes, okay? So I'm going to leave it like this to show you two different ways. Now, if we leave it like this, you won't be able to use a contact route that doesn't have that middleware. So that's the caveat there. All right, so now that we have the routes finished up there, then let's just go ahead and look at these requests. So let's start with our create. Okay, so for our create, what we're going to do here is we are going to, let's get rid of all of this in the middle here to make it easy to look at. And we need to make this an asynchronous function here. So we'll use async keyword like that. And then what we're going to do is we are going to return, we're going to do a try catch block. Okay, we're going to try everything in here, and then we will catch any sort of error, and then we will do a response. Oh, come on. Response.status, and we will send back a 422, and then we'll send back JSON, and we'll say error.error. Okay, let's make sure it didn't import something crazy up here. Okay, looks good. No, it doesn't. It did import that. All right, thanks a lot. All right, so then what we're going to do is in this try block, then what we want to do is get our user ID. Now our user ID, because of our middleware, is going to come from request.userdata.id. Again, that comes from our middleware where we actually injected the user data into the request object, and we're just decoding the JWT token. And remember that JWT token had our user ID when it was just set to ID. It also had our first name and last name. All right, so once we've done that, then we're going to create a contact by doing this. We'll say const contact is equal to, and we need to use an await keyword here, and we will use our contact dot create method. Now this contact here is going to be from our contact model. Okay, so this is our SQLized model, and then in here this is going to take an object, and this object is going to be the properties, which in our case will be request.body.fname. We'll pass fname in. We'll also do lname exactly the same way. So request.body.lname. All right, and then we will do email, request.body.email. And then we will do phone, which is request.body.phone. Now we also need to give it a user ID, and in this case, our user ID is going to be, we don't want to have that passed in, we want that to come from the token. So the logged in user will get set up by default here. Okay. Once we do that, then what we're going to do is we're going to do a response.status, and we're going to send it a 200. We'll pass JSON, and then what we're going to do here is do success true, and then we're going to send them the contacts back like this. All right. So that's it for our create method. Let's go ahead and try that out. So if we go to contacts, if we do a post to our contacts, we can send our bodies as fname. And let's do Tony here. We'll do lname, Parham. Thanks a lot for autocomplete. Man, it's really screwing me up here. Usually I'm thankful for it, but for right now, it's really making me mad. Email is going to be tony@freeskills.com. And then we're going to do phone is 555-123-1234. Okay, just for an example. And we're going to go ahead and send that post request. And now you see we get back a success message here. So if we go now, we look at our database. So if we go to phpMyAdmin now, and we go to our contacts, we should be able to, why doesn't this add this? Just wondering why this doesn't add it to my drop down over here like these, my tables here. Anyway, take these off. I don't know why that's not working. I'm missing something here, obviously. But anyways, if we go to contacts, we do have this row, and this is the information that we added. And then SQLize is nice enough to add our created at and updated at timestamps. So that is looking good. So create works. Let's go ahead and do our get now. And what we're going to do here is inside of this return, let's just get rid of everything here. And we want to return an asynchronous function because we're doing a database call. Remember, we're doing that because SQLize returns a promise. So we're going to say const user ID is going to be equal to our request.userdata.id. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to use our const destructuring here, where we say count and rows. And then we're going to await contact.find and count all. And then inside of there, we are going to pass an object where we can pass some options. In this case, we're going to say where, and then we're going to say where user ID is equal to user ID, like that. By the way, I want to show you something real quick. If I set this here, let's do response is equal to contacts, and then let's just do a console log this response like this, and we are going to then go to Postman, and instead of posting to this, we will do a get request to contacts. And now that's not going to run, but if we go here, we can see that we get an object back, and the first one in it is count, and the next one is rows. So we have count and rows, and these are the keys. So what we can do is destructure that right here instead of doing one solid response, because we could do response.count or response.data rows. Instead, we can do this where we say count rows like that, and that will destructure that object into two separate variables, and those will be objects here. So then what we're going to do here is we are going to do a response.status. We're going to give them a 200 back, and then we will do a .json, and we'll pass it an object back, and then we're going to say data is equal to rows, and total is our count. Now this is rows and count from our destructured response there, and then we'll give it a success of true, like that. Now if I save that and go back here and we'll send that again, now we do get our stuff back. We have our data, which is an array of objects, okay, and then we have our total and our success. All right, so I'm really happy with that. let's move on now. Let's go ahead and do a find by ID. Now, if we look back at this real quick, we can see that our ID 1 is this. So what we can do is we're going to do a get and then do a /1 here, and that will get us that response back. And so right now we don't have anything done here, so let's go ahead and do that find by ID. Again, we're going to get rid of everything in here just to make it easy on us. And then I'm going to return an async function, again, because we're doing database call on this. And then now, just like before, what we're going to do here is we're going to say const user ID is equal to request dot user data.id, and then we'll say const contact ID is going to be equal to our request.params.id. Okay. Then we're going to say const contact is equal to, and then we're going to do an await, because this is the part that our SQLize is going to return and a promise here, so we need to use an await. And we're going to use our contact model dot find one. We're going to do a find one instead of find by primary key, because we're going to add multiple where clause here. So then we're going to do say where, and that's going to be an object, and we're going to say where ID is equal to contact ID, and where user underscore ID is equal to user ID, just like that, and that will return the contact. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say const response, just a default response, is going to be equal to success false contact null, and then we're going to say if the contact was found, then what we want to do is say response.success is equal to true, and response.contact is equal to contact. All right, and then outside of that if statement, all we're going to do here is we are going to do a response.status 200, and then we're going to return a JSON object, and the JSON object we're going to return is, actually I screwed that up, we're just going to pass in our response object. Okay, and that is it. So let's go test that one out now. So I should be able to do this send now, and you see, yes, we get the success back, user ID 2. If I try to do one that doesn't exist, like ID 2, I get false back. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and do our update now. Update is going to be pretty straightforward as well. Again, let's return an async, and then I'm going to get rid of this here. And for update, let's do const contact ID is equal to request.params.id, so that's going to come from the URL. And then const user ID is going to come from request.userdata.id, which comes from our user auth middleware. I got a misspelling it mistake there. All right, then what we're going to do here is we're going to say const response is equal to success false and contact null. And then what we'll do is we'll say const contact is equal to, and we're going to use our contact.find one. And in here, what we're going to do is pass in where ID is contact ID, and user underscore ID is user ID. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say if contact, so if you found the contact and it's from the same user ID that's coming from the token, then we can update this. So we're going to do const vals is equal to, we'll do an object, and we're going to do fname is request.body.fname. We'll do lname is request.body.lname. Email is request.body.email, and phone is request.body.phone. Now we're not going to do user ID because that's already set. We don't need to update that in any way. And the thing, if you're wondering, since this is the way SQLize works, is if any of these things are null, it doesn't update it to null, okay? So that's something to be aware of. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do an await, and we're going to say, hey, await contact.update, and we're going to pass in, the first thing is going to be the values. The second one is going to be our condition, and we're going to say where, and that's going to be ID is equal to contact ID. Okay, we could also add the user ID in there as well. However, we don't really need to do that because we're only doing it here if that returns, okay? And if we wanted to be real sure that nothing weird's happened, we can even do contact.id like that, okay? The next thing we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and reload that so that we get the updated information. So we can do contact.reload. Why did that happen? All right. Now that we've done that, we are going to say response.success is equal to true. And then we're going to say response.message is equal to contact updated. And then we're going to say response.contact is equal to contact. And I guess up here in this response, we're going to say message response contact not found. All right, outside of that if statement now, we are just going to do a response.status, and we're going to send it up a 200. Now we could do a 201 or something, but we'll just do 200. And then we'll do .json, and we're going to pass our response object into that. Okay, so that is it for our update. Let's go ahead and try that. So our contact was our contact 1, and then we're going to do a patch request. And what I'd like to do is only update. Let's update only the first name. So we're going to say fname. And that's going to be equal to Antoinette, like that. We'll hit send. Oops, we must have a problem here. Unhandled promise rejection. So there was a problem for some reason. Let's what we could do is put this in a try catch to figure that out. So let's try that real quick. Let's put all of this in a try catch error. And we're going to do a response.status 422.json, and we'll send in error.error. The rest of this we will put inside that try block right there. Let's save that, and let's try this again. Unprocessable entity. So let's go back now. Let's change this right here. Let's change this to contact ID like that. I just want to make sure we don't have any problems there. Let's double check our route. Go to contacts. It is a patch. /ID. Okay. Executing select contact.id is 1 and contact user ID is 2. Update contact set fname equal to updated at where ID is equal to. That seems like that's going to work. Let's see, we got a problem, Let's try console logging contact ID and user ID and make sure we're getting something back there. So we go here, it looks like we have a 1 and a 2. So user 2, ID 1. Let's go and double check the database here, make sure I'm not going crazy. Contacts, ID is 1, user ID is 2, and it did update right here. So it did update the first name. There must be a problem with something else. So it's making it all the way through the update. So let's look at that. It's making it here, and let's see, it's not doing this reload. So let's see what console log contact is. And let's go back here, refresh. So here's our contact. We have our data values here, our previous here. Is new record false? It seems like success false, contact null, message. Let's see what this one is after the reload. I'm sure I just have some stupid spelling mistake here that you guys have already seen. I'm going to set this back to Tony and save that. Not save it, I'm going to send it. Yeah, for some reason it seems like this reload is... I think the reload is what the problem is. I don't know why though. It did update this. Oh my gosh, this is annoying. I'm gonna pause the video and then look for it and come back, because I don't want you guys looking at me like I'm looking stupid. All right, literally as soon as I paused the video, I found the issue, and that is because this is an async issue where we didn't use the await right here, and it was continuing on before it had the ability to even have a contact. Okay, so it updated, but that is because it was actually running that, but then returning the response before and moving on before we were able to do that. So now if we go ahead and come up here and do an await contact.reload, just like that, this will work now. Let's change this back to Antoinette, hit send, and there we go, contact updated. Sorry about that, sorry for the confusion, but yeah, now you can see what was happening is I didn't put the await here. So it was doing the database call, and before it could finish the database call, it was jumping into all of this, and this contact right here, this check isn't really adequate in that case because it was making it in here, but the contact was an empty array, or it was a promise rather, and it was doing the update, okay, just fine. However, it was not doing the reload because this didn't exist yet. And then when it was trying to return the response, there was nothing in here. So all of this and the response was happening before this database call was finish updating. So that's why we have to use the await. Okay. So there we go. Let's go on now and finish the delete method. So we'll get rid of everything in here, and then we'll make this an async method. And then what we're going to do is we are going to do const contact ID is equal to request.params.id. Const user ID is going to be equal to request.userdata.id. And then what we're going to do is do const contact is equal to await. Make sure we do await this time. We'll do an await contact.find1. That'll take an object, and we're going to pass in where, which will also be an object, and we're going to say where ID is equal to contact ID and where user ID is equal to user ID. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to say if, well, let's do one more. Let's do const response is equal to success false message contact not found and contact null. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, if there is a contact, then what we're going to do is say contact dot destroy wonder if we can do that. We'll try that. I don't know if that's going to work, but we need to do an await here. We'll wait for that to be destroyed, and then we're going to say response.success is equal to true. Response.message is equal to contact deleted. And we'll do, well, we don't need to do a contact in this case. It's going to be deleted, so we'll just won't worry about that. And outside of this if statement, we're going to do response.status 200 response .json, and we're going to pass our response into that. So we'll save that, and let's go back here and let's actually create a new one. We'll call this delete me. All right, so now we have delete me, and it's not passing back the ID and phone because those are null. That's interesting. But let's go ahead now and see this ID was 2. So now let's try to go to delete contacts 2. And we have a problem again. Delete from contacts where ID is equal to 2. And that's a problem. Let's try again. And it was already deleted, so let's try it again. Let's go to post. We're going to post here. We're going to create another delete me. So that comes back as 3, and then we'll do a delete contacts /3. And now it says true, contact deleted. So let's go and look at our database. And we still only have 1 contact. So let's add 1 more contact there and test out our find all, which I think should already be working. So let's go here. We'll do another post to the contacts route, and this will be Jules Parham. Email is going to be Jules@freeskills.com. MySql.com, and we'll do phone at 555-123-9898. And then you can see that returns this. So then what I want to do is just get all my contacts for this user. And now you can see I get data that has 2 contacts. It has Antoinette here, and then it has Jules here. What we probably want to do is go ahead and order these. So let's go now and try to order these actually. And so in our get all right here, we can add another, we'll say order, and then I'm going to say, we're going to order by L name, comma, F name. Save that. I don't know if that's going to work because I might have to look it up. And that doesn't work. So let's try to look that up together. So if you go to Sequelize, we have this find or create here. And I'm just going to find order, query basics, ordering, and it looks like order is going to be an array. What? That doesn't make any sense. I guess because we have to have a descending here. So let's try it. Let's try order, and we'll set that to an array, which will have an array of arrays, I guess. And the first element in this array is going to be L name. And then we'll set that in ascending order. And then we'll do another array, which will do F name. And we'll set that to ascending order as well. Let's save that and try that. Yep, I guess that works. Let's try one more. Let's post one more and try to. So let's do something different here. This should be, let's do Becker, Joseph, Joe at free skills, 1, 2, 3, and then let's do 7868. All right, so that created Joseph Becker. Now if I go to get and hit send, yep, we got Joseph Becker first, and then Antoinette Parham, and then Jules Parham. So the ordering is correct. I don't like that, but that's the way Sequelize did it. So that's the way we have to follow there. All right, guys. Well, with that, let's talk just a little bit more about what I am considering this done. This is going to give us all the functionality that we need to do our front end application. You could continue to add more to this if you'd like, but I want to show you where you could go to get more help. I'd like to do that on each chapter. That's first and foremost, I would go to Node.js. So if you go to our npm.js.com, and first let's look up the package. What? Man, I just drew a blank. So we'll go to package.json. You can see the stuff that we're using here. We're using Sequelize. We're using Express. So Express is the one I was thinking of. So Express is going to be, you find it here. And if you go to Express, you're going to see some basic stuff here. But then you can see website and documentation here. And if you go there, you can go and do the get started, and then the full guide and the full API reference here. And then here it says 5.x, and if you look, we are using Express 4.17. So if you're going to look in the documentation here, you do the 4.x, and this will give you every API endpoint for Express. Now, the other thing is go to npmjs.com, and let's look at, you can look up JSON Web Token or Morgan or Sequelize. Sequelize is likely going to be the one that you'll need the most help with, and I showed you that in the previous video. But let's also go to Nodejs.org, and here you can go to the docs, and let's see, we're looking for the documentation for Node.js. We are using, well, what we'll need to do is go to the terminal and we'll type node, and then we're going to do -- version. So we're using 14.18.0. So if you go here, you can look at the docs for 14.18, I guess .1 there. And so, yeah, here you can find all the documentation you want to about Node.js, okay? You could also look at, let's see, guides. So now here's the getting started, debugging, and then it talks more about, you know, making this a Docker image, core concepts, so introduction. So here's some awesome stuff that you guys can look into. But this series should have given you a brief introduction into Node.js, to at least you're a little bit aware of how it works and where to go to get more help. All right, so in the next video, guys, we're going to take this API that we just built in this chapter, and we are going to build a front end. And the front end is going to allow us to add to-dos, and it's going to add contacts, and we're going to be able to register and log in and all of that good stuff with just a front end single page application. So nothing will reload. It'll load one time, and then it's going to be snappy and do API calls when it needs to get information or send information to the backend, which the backend will be this Node.js application. All right, guys, with that, let's go ahead and push this up. Finished up contact routes, get push, get checkout main, get merge v11, get push. All right, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this chapter. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you've enjoyed about this chapter, what you're excited to still learn in this series. I think what we're going to do is do our React.js for our next chapter, and then I'm going to do a chapter on unit testing, and then we'll do a brief outro. I don't know if that'll be a whole chapter or just an outro, and then we will call this series done, and hopefully you guys will go out and get some jobs, and then you can continue on in future lessons. And then on my channel, I'm going to get started on a live series where we're going to build a Laravel application. All right, guys, I will talk to you later. Peace out.